Welcome back to another Q&A The Librarian Way. I'm Emily from TheLibrarian.com.
And I'm Julia from Stylish in the Stacks, and this week we are talking about setting goals and how you can set goals in your library through the year, and we're going to share the types of goals that we set for ourselves, how often, and anything else that comes to mind.
All right,
So,
first
Emily?
question. What do you take into consideration when setting goals?
You want to start?
I'll start. What do I take into consideration? I always make sure that I'm looking back at what I have tried to do throughout the year, and then I also am trying to look forward, but I make sure to take in my library's mission, and that's something that we've worked really hard on over the last years, creating a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values that the whole library can work towards together instead of kind of having that feel like it works for children's but it doesn't work for teens or a reference. So taking all that into consideration, but then I also take my teens into consideration. We really take a hard look at what they've enjoyed, what hasn't really worked, and stuff that they've asked for, and doing our best to make sure that we're hitting all of those elements. So that's kind of what goes in, and to try to play on trends, kind of forecasting, hey, there's a group of these books coming out, maybe we should, start preparing for that.
Or the Olympics are coming up and we should target that.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah. I think here in the school, I focus on two things. Goals that would have to go along with reading for fun, and then goals that have to go along with the research, because both of those are just such a huge part of my job. And so, and I also consider setting more long-term goals and more short-term goals, and so that's kind of what I think through whenever I'm setting goals. I'm kind of speaking vaguely right now.
You are speaking vaguely, but that's okay. Maybe one of our other purple questions
Yeah.
will pull more out of you. So you're up.
Okay. How many goals do you set?
I am terrible at this. I really am. My boss we have 2 evaluations at my library, so we have one at 6 months, which is kind of more of they're both laid back. These are not, scary evaluations. But halfway through the year is kind of going over our goals, seeing where we're at in the goal process, and then at the end of the year, you make your goals for the next year. And so I'm like, does one? I don't know. I have a lot of trouble making goals, at least personal goals. So I try to do 3 for my department and then 3 for me professionally, and that's something that she has really pushed for me the last few years, my director, is to make sure that I'm focusing on professional development, that I'm providing, that I'm making opportunities where I'm out in the community doing different things, whether that's speaking at a conference or trying to write an article that I haven't done yet, which is one of my goals for this year. What month is it? It's almost October. So I'm not great at certain goals, apparently. But I try to do both and make that a priority, to make sure that I'm making goals for both my library and for myself as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. And I tend to set about 5 goals during the year. I tend to set about 3 that are just going to be more short term and that I know I'm going to tackle pretty early on. And then maybe something like going through and weeding out the entire reference section, which is what I'm doing right now, is more of a long-term goal, and so I might only set 1 or 2 of those. And I don't really officially set professional development goals for myself, just because I'm always working on it, and that's just the type of person I am. I think if I wasn't, then I would make that like a written goal, but I'm always trying to do something.
And she is making me.
Yes.
So see.
Yes.
She's keeping me,
But it
accountable.
totally works backwards though, because I'm always looking for opportunities to speak at things or write articles or whatnot, and then no one wants me. But then everyone always wants Emily, and she has to be dragged on stage.
She's making this
Whatever.
all up.
You were a mover and shaker 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm moving and shaking, and no one's seeing it.
I've stopped shaking. Now I just sway. No. I try
I'm
to
sounding
move and
really
shake.
desperate right now, so we should move on.
How often do you set goals, and how often do you look back at your goals?
I set goals at the beginning of every school year, and then I meet with my principal probably 2 or 3 times during the school year, especially with the new evaluation system we have in Indiana, and so we're always reviewing my goals then. So it's usually a 3 or 4 time of the year. Usually the end of the school year is when I sit down with my assistant and we start talking through what are going to be our goals for the next school year.
Along with, like I said, we have the 2 evaluations. So we set at the end of the year for the upcoming year, and then we review them halfway through. Certain goals I find that I think they're too short term that I make, and then I'm done with all my goals, and it's like, oh, what are we doing the second half of the year? So I think that would be a good idea to kind of think more long range. Like this year, this is what I kind of want to accomplish. So I think that's something I probably need to work on.
Yeah. Well, and you and I were talking earlier about how you really have to think about when you're setting a goal, what's defining success for you. Like, there have been times where I've said, okay, I want 50% of my school student body to participate in this reading program. And then maybe 6 months into the school year, I'm seeing that only 10% have contributed. But yet those 10% was so enthusiastic about being a part of that program. So we really have to reevaluate. Do we need to put a number on it? What's the point of putting a number on a goal? Is it easier just to say we want to get this program up and running and see students excited about it?
Absolutely. So I've had programs where I've had 80 teens come, and I didn't have fun, and I don't think they had as much fun as those programs where there was 10 to 15, and that was more my success, because I was able to build relationships with those teens, and they came back for other things where I don't think I had that with the bigger crowd. So I think you're absolutely right. Defining success, and that looks different in every library. I mean, we are in a unique position because we're so close physically, like where our buildings are. I have a middle school directly next to me, so I'm not looking for teenagers to come. Which
they're already there.
Yes, they're already there, which is its own problem. It's a great problem to have, but it's its own problem. So if you're in a library where you might be a little more rural and you're only getting a couple teens to come, or setting programs is difficult because parents have to physically drive the kids there. So it's not like you have this built-in teen community. Your success might look a little different. And I think that's what's really neat about libraries, is that they are so community focused. So not to kind of look out and say, well, that library has, tons of people. They're working off of a whole different set of rules.
Exactly.
Last one.
Okay, last one. How do you combine your personal goals with those of the larger organization, like your library or my school?
I didn't do this as well until we really created that vision and mission statement. And so we had this kind of unifying goal that everybody was trying to work towards. So as much as possible, I like to meld the teen program into what the rest of the library is doing, whether that's getting children's involved or doing a whole library family program, or sneaking in something as a combination within a reference program. Also getting the teens out in the community, because we're very big community focused. That's one of our core values, is community relationships. So putting a face on the teens in the community so that they know that we have this great teen group, the good and the bad, but this great teen group. So trying to work some of those into everything that we do, whether that's on the small scale, like hosting one community service thing, or on a bigger scale that I want to implement this whole big program. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just being a part of so many conversations with teachers, and also being a part of a variety of committees, not just committees that maybe relate to the library specifically, just so that I can hear, what kinds of goals the school is setting in general, or what kinds of issues teachers are having and need help with. Like, we're sitting in what used to be one of my reference corners, but I know that for the past 6 years, students have really not been using this area at all. I mean, it really gets ignored. So one of my goals was to put those reference books somewhere else where they are going to be used, and that was appreciated by the teachers as well. They didn't want to see the materials disappear, they just wanted to see them relocated so that students still had access to them. So I think I just have to, I'm constantly considering what teachers are wanting and just kind of trying to make it easier.
And I think you're part of the conversation. And I think that's kind of the whole goal, is to be a part of the conversation in your library, in your space, and in your community. So how you can best do that.
Exactly.
Are we ready for a fun one?
We're ready for a fun one.
Let's do a fun one.
Yay.
What book vacation combo would you most like to plan? Are we going to pick the same one?
I think so.
Probably.
I'll come up with an alternate.
Okay. Mine is Anna and the French Kiss in Paris. I would love to take the book and read it as I'm walking around the city and visit all the different places. It was just an adorable story. And Paris seemed like the sixth man. I mean, it was this other
Yes.
character, which was really
Yeah,
fun.
because most of the time when I read books like that, the setting is like, okay, Paris sounds cool, but I don't really feel like I have
could
to
be
go
anywhere.
there. It could. And when I read that book, I wanted to go to Paris so badly, and that just never happens to me. So.
See, I wanted to go back because I did not like it. I'm like, oh, it doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try it again.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about you?
I would probably pick Anne of Green Gables because the imagery that she uses so much in there with Prince Edward Island and all
That'd
of
be
that.
nice.
It is really nice. It seems very relaxing. So that would be my alternate, I think.
Off topic, but same.
Yes.
Have you seen Austenland? Do you know a girl goes to Regency era theme park
No,
and lives out? You've got to read this book, and the
do
movie
need
is
to.
coming out. But we had a long conversation in my library about, would you really want to go immerse yourself in a setting like that?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it or you're going to see it, let
Yeah.
us know. Make sure you leave comments below. But
Yes.
yeah, she was
Okay.
a little desperate in the book. So maybe if I wasn't desperate and then I went and just enjoyed being unplugged and wearing
Right.
fancy dresses, that'd be kind of fun. But it's hilarious. Read it.
You know, I have no idea really what you're talking about because I haven't read this. So I'm just nodding along like I know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I do that a lot. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Make sure you leave all your comments below or join us at www.TheLibrarianWay.com for the rest of the week. We're going to be talking about goals and how we kind of work that into our daily lives in our libraries. As always, we would love to hear from you. So if you do have questions, send us an email.
Yep.
Let us know. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. That was an awkward ending.
It was fine.
It was fine. So Austenland.
I know. I really don't even know what you're talking
It's
about.